My name is Gavin Kincaid, and I'm going to be doing my presentation over the B-25 Super Rabbit. So personal background and why I chose this artifact. As you know, my name is Gavin Kincaid. I'm from Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm a sophomore at the University of Oklahoma. I am doing aviation management and I'm flying, and hopefully I can get into the pilot program and do the flying track. And the reason why I chose this artifact was because it was arguably second most famous aircraft at the museum besides Miss America, as Miss America was an air racer and is still currently air racing and is in Reno, Nevada right now. I wanted to do it on a retired military aircraft instead of an air racer, so I chose the B-25 that was at the museum. And what also attracted me is I think the B-25 is a very attractive bomber, and I also want to do it because of the Doolittle raid. So that's why I chose Super Rabbit. So the Oklahoma Museum of Flying. Before we talk about the artifact, I did my research on. I want to talk about the museum for a quick second. The Oklahoma Museum of Flying is in Bethany, Oklahoma, at Wiley Post. And I've been going to this museum ever since I was a little kid, and have continuously gone back time and time again, as the main attraction to the museum is a continuous work on aircraft, as these aircraft are worked on to be put into flying condition, but the workers also build aircraft from scratch. Additionally, they have a fairly big section based on World War II with numerous artifacts, as well as artifacts from Nazi Germany and Gunther Rall, who was the third most victorious German ace of World War II. And the current aircraft that are in their hangar is the B-25 Super Rabbit, an L-39 Albatross trainer, which is an Eastern Bloc trainer jet, the P-51D Miss America, a P-51D that's being built, and a P-51C Charlie variant being built as well, which is the Razorback, as well as a Cessna L-39 Bird Dog. So the B-25 Mitchell. The B-25 Mitchell was named after Brigadier General William Billy Mitchell, who was a pioneer in American military aviation and built in the late 1939 till the end of the war in 1945. It was a twin-tailed mid-wing aircraft with two 1,700 horsepower Wright Cyclone engines and carried a bomb load of 5,000 pounds. It was used in multiple roles throughout World War II, being used for low and high altitude bombing, strafing with its 50 cal machine guns, photo reconnaissance, and submarine patrol. It was used in multiple theaters in the war, being used in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, the Far East, the Pacific, North Africa, and the Mediterranean, and some sources say even the Middle East. It was used predominantly by the Americans, but was used by the RAF in the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program by the United States. Notable battles and feats. The B-25 has participated in many battles throughout World War II, like the Battle of El Alamein, the invasion of Sicily, the bottom right corner, as you can see, Mount Vesuvius erupting, which destroyed 80 B-25s, which I found out while researching this. I think that's a really cool photo. It also participated in D-Day, Saipan, Guam, the Marshall Islands, Indochina, Papua New Guinea, and numerous other Pacific campaigns and conflicts throughout World War II. However, the most noteworthy and famous feat by the B-25 was the Doolittle raid, where in 1942, 16 B-25s took off the deck of the USS Hornet in complete secrecy to bomb the capital of Japan, Tokyo. A feat the B-25 should have never been able to do on an aircraft carrier, as it is an Army aircraft, and it should have been impossible for an Army aircraft to take off of a carrier. The B-25s were successful in reaching their targets and caused a retaliatory strike against Japan for the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, and creating a major morale boost for the American citizens and military, as well as effectively making Japan rethink their Pacific strategy against the Americans. Why was Super Rabbit built? In 1939, the U.S. Air Corps wanted a medium-range bomber that could carry at least 2,000 pounds with a range of over 1,000 miles. This led to a competition between the YB-25 and the YB-26, or the Marauder, which were never made into prototypes, but based off of drawing boards, they were chosen to be built. Super Rabbit was built to fill the continuous role of bomber aircraft being churned out for the war effort during World War II. However, by the time that she was built in 1944 and delivered in June 1945, the war was practically over. With Germany defeated, the only Axis members left was Japan. And at this point in the war, it was losing battle with mainland Japan being firebombed and its civilian cities and sectors being bombed out. And they as well were losing all fronts of the war in the Far East and in the Pacific. With this realization, it most likely was decided that all aircraft at this point in time were not to be seen in combat, which led to Super Rabbit being put in storage just for further use if the need arises. However, what should be noted is that the B-25 that I'm writing about is not the original Super Rabbit, as the B-25 was shot down. The real one was shot down over the Pacific, according to the caretaker of this aircraft. So Super Rabbit's full history, as you can see here, this is a flying photo of Super Rabbit. She was built in 1944 at a plant in Kansas City, Missouri. She was then taken to Sacramento on June 30th, 1945. She flew as a TB-25, which was the trainer version of the B-25, and was then grouped with other B-25s to Smoky Hills, Kansas, to be sent to South Plains, Texas, and then Peyote, Texas, for mass storage in 1948. After this, she was sold to Canada in the Royal Canadian Air Force, and in Canada, she was used for training and in the Central Experimental Improving Establishment (CEP), which she then became an administrative aircraft before she retired in 1962, where she was the last recorded B-25 used by the Royal Canadian Air Force. She was then sold to L. Woods, don't know the first name, who lived in Lewistown, Montana, and then sold it to Belomi Aviation, who refurbished it for the Venezuelan Air Force with 8 other B-25s for military service. So as you can see here, this is the actual real Super Rabbit, and you can kind of tell by its livery that it's a little bit different than the one that we see today. It served in the Venezuelan Air Force under the number 40 Squadron, where she served till 1972. Sold to Bolivia in 1975, and according to the caretaker, she served in combat time in Bolivia. In the 70s, they actively fought guerrillas in jungles like other South American countries during the Cold War, which kind of made its active combat role. They also served as an administrative aircraft in transport. It is recorded to have been the last B-25 in the Bolivian Air Force as well. She was then sold by the Bolivian Air Force to Doan Helicopters, where she got her current tail registration as N25 November Alpha. When flying to her destination one part of the trip, she was involved in an off-wheel landing after a dual engine failure, but made it afterwards. She was then sold multiple times, but made its way into a museum in 1996, then bought by Steve Cyril, who lived in Australia. However, he died before he ever received the aircraft and was sold to Doc Heisey, the owner of the Oklahoma Museum of Flying, by his wife, and it was then refurbished to fly, where her first refurbished flight was in 2014, and she's been flying ever since. Well, the local forefront and the reason why Super Rabbit is in Oklahoma. Super Rabbit is in Oklahoma because a private collector who has an interest in military history bought her and brought it to his personal museum, and that's Doc Heisey. It's important to local Oklahomans because it allows a gateway to World War II aircraft and its history, and shows a significance to these World War II aircraft. And having the ability to see a surviving and flyable military aircraft such as a B-25 is pretty extraordinary, as not every aircraft is flyable from that time. I mean, it's a 77-plus-year-old aircraft. Because Oklahoma has such a rich history in aviation, especially in military bombers and trainers, such as Westheimer being a naval air station and Altus Air Force Base being a trainer location during World War II. So in conclusion, I think this is a really cool photo of B-25 strafing a Japanese destroyer. In conclusion, the significance of the B-25 is very important to the history of the United States Air Corps and the Air Force during World War II, and its feats are still being recognized today with the B-21 Raider, the most recent bomber that's being built, the next generation of a B-2 basically. It's being named after the dual raid carried out by B-25s. For the significance of Super Rabbit, it carried many records, with being the last B-25 in both service by both Canada and Bolivia, making it historically significant in that retrospect. Not, that's one aircraft. It also shows how many collectors and military aircraft can change hands very quickly and jump from owners. And finally, showing that there is a local flying World War II farm that I can visit every day because that museum is open every single day and they're always working on it, is only 40 minutes away from Norman. And I think that should be about it. Thank you so much for listening to this video lecture. Thank you.